live. Speaking of live, what a great band.
Hey, we're live.
All right.
Oh, all righty.
All right, we got Brandon Dorman.
Hey,
We got Mike McGoldrick. Mike's just coming off the team quarterfinals.
Yep.
They tagged you in.
They did, yeah.
Do you want to cheers?
Tagged in.
Of course I'm in.
I think I set a record for shortest amount of time to get in shape.
There's your
Cheers.
3 milligrams
Thanks.
of caffeine.
Yeah, this will be more than enough. Yeah, man, team quarterfinals was fun. I thought the workouts were a lot of fun.
So you're not going to move on to the games, right? The plan all along,
semis.
or sorry, semis.
No, I'm stepping out and someone else.
So
is
it was
gonna
just
go
like y'all looked at the workouts, said, "Hey, I should probably do these."
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And yeah, it worked out. So still waiting validation on some scores and stuff. You know, so like that's the hardest part about this stage of quarterfinals is like there's no other competition you do where you're like finish and you're like, all right, I hope that was good enough.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta wait now because you think you like perform all standards perfectly and then you could get a major penalty on something. Like, did you see the article went out with like just the onslaught of major penalties they handed out?
So many.
I know. And like, it's a tough stage of competition because you want to finish and celebrate just like any other time where you perform. This is your result. You can go celebrate and like enjoy it. And instead, you're just kind of in this like waiting corral of anxiety of knowing was it enough kind of thing.
Yeah, Kyle, Ruth, and I actually did a podcast yesterday. Will that come out today at some point or maybe tomorrow?
Yeah.
So for those that are watching, you'll have another podcast coming out. But we talked about that and the challenge is like you think about it for teams, at least they go to a live competition next. For age group, they go into another qualifier that's remote. And so then it's that whole process again of doing everything yourself, filming yourself, posting it. And then once you're finished, you still have to wait.
Yeah.
All right, so we got people coming in. This is our first time doing one of these. This is usually for our online program only, but today we were like, let's flip the switch. Let's let all of YouTube join in. So give us a shout in the chat if you can actually hear us. Maybe this whole time our mics aren't even working.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, about that.
That would be real bad.
And then we have, how many questions do we have from our...
We've
got a good bit. We'll go ahead. We can start chipping away at those. And then as people, if you guys have questions, those that are either in the program or that are interested, then ask away and we'll answer those as we go.
All right.
All right, yeah, we got confirmation that we are heard.
Wang says, yeah.
Yay.
Good. That would be pretty bad if we were talking the whole time and no one could hear us.
It's not the first time.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with some questions from our compete group. The first one is, I'm following the master's path and need to get better at rowing. I was exposed in quarterfinals. Any advice on this? I also need to get strong and working on that. So, Mike, you want to kick us off with that question?
Yeah, I'll start with the simple one at the end. I need to get strong working on it. I mean, we have the strength bias path that's going on right now, and we're only 2 weeks in. So I think once you feel fresh and recovered, jump back into that. It's actually probably okay to take a short amount of time off, maybe like half of this week and start doing it because it's not like the most intense style of lifting right now. We are going to progress into that, but it's more of like an off-season strength program. So I think it'd be really good for your joints to like get moving. It's got bodybuilding stuff in there. So I would jump in there, Parvin.
Yeah, before we I'll answer his rowing question. So Parvin, if you're listening, I'll answer that in a second. But before we do that, can you just break down the strength path and kind of what we're doing for the next 6 weeks and then how that will progress into the next block?
Yeah, sure. So the strength bias path we're doing right now is basically it's an overemphasis on strength development. So we removed all conditioning, majority of conditioning. You'll still have some base stuff in there just to stay, in some level of shape. But basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, you're doing strength work. And the goal right now with it being off season is working strength to positions, technique in the Olympic work, in the Olympic lifts, doing some bodybuilding, and really just trying to kind of like refresh hormones, deload from very high percentage strength work so that we are kind of setting the stage for the next phase that's going to begin where we are going to start pushing more aggressive linear progressions again in like the front squat, the back squat, the deadlift, the Olympic lifts, higher percentage work there. So basically this next 6 weeks is allow you to basically chase the pump a little bit and then make sure that positions are just getting strong again. So Monday you've got pause front squats. Friday, you've got box squats. So we're using accommodating resistance to work the top of the lift or the starting point of the lift where whereas Monday we're working the bottom position. So we're training the pieces that need to get stronger so that we can basically allow yourself to have this bridge period to go into the more aggressive strength phase that comes up at the start of the next cycle.
Yeah, I talked about this in the last live we did, but think of this first phase in our offseason for those that are moving from quarterfinals or from the open into, wow, you have music playing.
Oh, man.
No, it was my audio.
You just messed up?
Yeah.
Come on, dude. Hiller's watching.
Yeah.
That's a no.
But you could think of this first base building phase as like, we need to lay the foundation of the house. So we got this beautiful mansion we want to build, and it's going to be finished by the end of the year. But the first step of that is like, we want a foundation that doesn't crumble when we start putting the walls on. And Chris is
Your
laughing at me right now.
What was the analogy you dropped the other day?
The taco.
Oh my God.
The tacos.
Talking about building the face. All right, so that's like your taco shell. And then you add in the meat. And then
Got to put a little bit of
all
lettuce,
we have right now
cheese.
is the lettuce. And we need some meat.
Hey, I understood it, and I mean, who doesn't love tacos?
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, think of it that way. I think people get impatient when they look at training programs, especially coming off of a season where something didn't go well. Like, oh, man, I'm not good at this one thing, and they want to attack it right away. I think that's a great mindset. But also you need to take a step back and say, well, what's the base of getting that thing better? And for most of us, it's going to be building that strength base first so that we can get better at the gymnastics, or for Parvin's question, get better at rowing. All of those things play into that foundation that we're talking about right now.
Yep.
Cool. So before you ask that question, Parvin, I wanted to finish this one. The
rowing. One question down.
He asked about how to get better at rowing. I think there's kind of two things to think about. Number one is movement economy. So if the technique is bad, and this is true with any movement in the sport, but especially when you talk about like running and rowing and all those kind of things that are like seem simple, but if you have bad technique, you're just using more effort than the average person or than a good person at rowing. So what we're going to do is actually next week, our on-site rowing extraordinaire Becky Rogers is going to make a common faults video and just kind of break down the common faults and then the proper technique for rowing. So Parvin, make sure you watch that. And anybody else that struggled with rowing in the open or any other time, you should watch that video. The other one is you have to get exposure. In the sport, it's you got to scrimmage the sport. And so there's kind of two options here. You could take the running progressions we have on Tuesday and basically change those for rowing progressions. So instead of doing the 1 mile repeats that we did last week in our test, you would just do 2K repeats, which we've done in the past, but that's a great way to build a base. Or you could just start with some easy rowing as a warm-up and cool down. And then in our next cycle, we're actually going to do a 20-minute row test. It's going to be for max watts, which is totally different than anything we've ever done, but it'll be a lot of fun, and that's a good way to build a base.
Yeah, I think big picture too, Parvin, is like analyzing what the limiter is on the rower. Does that mean it's technical? Does that mean it's when it's combined with another squatting pattern like thrusters and rowing, which was what was in Masters? So there's just, how you attack that weakness is going to be very different. Depends on basically, like what you find when you are breaking it down and figuring out what part of the rowing needs to be improved.
Yep, and since we are live here on YouTube to the whole audience this time, we do have a really cool question, and go ahead and throw some in if you have them. Trish wants to know.
I saw that. I was laughing when Brandon was talking because I got a story. We were just talking about that. Go ahead.
All right, let's read it out. Do you have any advice for a geriatric woman who only drinks milk and eats eggs?
I'm looking to build muscle.
Yeah.
That sounds like you're doing the right things.
Go ahead and tell your story real quick before we move on.
We were just talking about this. I was like 15 and I was super fired up to start lifting weights, and I watched Rocky, and he's, the scene where he drinks the raw eggs. So I went right into the kitchen and I cracked 6 eggs, and I put them in a cup and I start drinking them, and I'm like kind of like gagging as they're going down, but I'm like, whatever, dude, this is going to make me so strong and tough. And my sister-in-law watches me. It just starts throwing up in the sink, watching me. She's like immediately vomiting into the sink. And then maybe an hour later, I start vomiting aggressively. And it turns out I had to go to the doctor. I got salmonella poisoning for like 5 days. I was wrecked. So I don't recommend it, or maybe I'm just soft.
I mean, Trish is doing great with milk and eggs. So I would say talk to Becky, Tracy, Cena, any of our nutrition coaches. They can hook you up.
Sounds like a brutal fart fest.
I think the strength bias path combined with drinking milk and eggs is a good combination to continue to build muscle.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the next question?
Justin Bright, what if we really don't need to get stronger, but more strength, endurance, and muscular endurance and engine?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the nice thing that we have built out is there are so many options in Compete. So we have our strength bias path. For those, I think the majority of CrossFitters need to get stronger right now. We saw that with the biases in the open with the thruster, and then the same thing in quarterfinals. The clean and jerks just absolutely smacked people in the face, and even the front squats for some people. But we also know that there's some people, high-level weightlifters, power lifters, or those that are just naturally strong like Mike who come into the sport and they need more muscular endurance and just base endurance work, aerobic work, and we have that in our RX Path. So RX Path right now, 4 out of the 5 days in the week, there are muscular endurance protocols for pressing, pulling, hinging, and squatting. So that's, again, our base building phase. For the next 6 weeks, we've already finished week 1, so the next 5 weeks, you're doing muscular endurance work to build a big, resilient base so that we can get back into the hard CrossFit stuff later on in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, and to touch on the strength endurance work, that kind of goes into the next question that we actually had in our water cooler and WOD Up. Did the quarterfinal workouts shift your approach to this season's programming? So let's start from the strength side of it. Yes. Yeah. Looking at the quarterfinal tests, looking at the open tests, historically, we usually have a 1RM that's tested, not under fatigue. This time we saw in Masters as well, a lift under fatigue. We saw more strength endurance emphasis, meaning like heavier barbell cycling with increasing loads that was mixed into a Metcon. So we didn't see a fresh 1RM test this year. So I think that, going a year without seeing that, I think that we have to adjust the emphasis we put on heavier barbell cycling, ladders, that type of stuff, because we know now. I think originally a couple of years ago, I was like, all right, well, they're trying to make it more inclusive to the world. They're not going to do that kind of stuff because it's too hard in the open, but they did. They put a heavy thruster after a hard Metcon. They put heavy snatches into a Metcon. So, yeah, that's going to affect a little bit of how much you might see that style of training. We still had a lot of that, but I will probably put a little bit more in there now, just knowing that, okay, this can show up earlier in the stages in the open and not like the later quarterfinals or semifinal stage. So we'll see more of that style work. And I also think too, like, you may not see it in the training right now because this is a period of time, again, where we're like, look, your snatches under fatigue need to get better, but you got to have a period of time in training and throughout the year where you actually work on your snatch technique without being under fatigue. So I think this next 6 weeks is the time to do that. And then the next block, we will start developing the 1RM, and then we will blend in more strength endurance style tests. Like there's a power clean repeatability test that we're doing in the next cycle. So you're going to get touches on that type of stuff. So I think, yes, that's how we shift the approach to this season's programming, but it's not a massive change.
Yeah. For those that are just jumping on, the question was, did the quarterfinal and open workouts change our perspective on how we will program? Mike obviously answered that in the strength side. I'll just kind of quickly touch on the CrossFit side of things because the testing body, especially for individuals, was different. And even more so in quarterfinals. Yeah. We saw these huge bottlenecks where workout 1 was the strict handstand push-ups and then the rope climbs in the last workout. We saw this even in the open with the strict handstand push-ups going into the snatch, where it's kind of like this one movement held people back so they could fly through everything else, and then there's this one bottleneck. Does that mean everything changes? Absolutely not. We still need to kind of hold our guns, so to speak, where we're working on the basic concepts of what CrossFit has said is the sport. But at the same time, we also need to realize maybe the higher skills or the bottlenecks will be more prevalent in the sport moving forward. So to give you an example of this, when we get back into our CrossFit, you'll see things like 3 sets on the 8 minutes. So there's a 5-minute clock. You'll do a 500-meter row at a certain effort into AMRAP in a remaining time of 6 front squats, 5 ring muscle-ups, 30-foot handstand walking. So we're pre-fatiguing you into something that is a bottleneck, that is ring muscle-ups and handstand walks, because that was tested commonly in both the open and in quarterfinals. Or another example would be something like 75 seconds on, 75 seconds off for so many sets, 8 deadlifts, 8 dumbbell snatches, AMRAP bar muscle-ups in remaining time. So there's like, you're getting, again, pre-fatigued with a grip fatigue piece and then moving into an AMRAP set, or as many as you can in remaining time, of a specific movement. That's different than the normal 15-minute AMRAP of like 3 movements where you're just like going through a triplet as fast as possible because we're bottlenecking you on one movement. But if you can get good at that kind of local endurance side of things, it makes everything easier in the sport.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but then also too, we're not completely disregarding the simple stuff like a row thruster that showed up in Masters.
100%.
Like we didn't see one of those tests in quarters or the open, which I thought was kind of strange.
I was upset by that for sure.
But, it's still there in Masters. So I think that, maybe it was just a mistake in the bias of programming. I don't know. But anyway, that stuff will still be there as well. So I think, those are some of the adjustments. But again, like the main principles of improving these tools to get better in the sport will be what we focus on right now. Okay.
Let's see here. We have a question from the chat. Dan says, just bought a freestyle rope for crossover work. Any thoughts on how to size it as compared to a speed rope?
Man, I don't know enough yet on perfect sizing because so many people are doing this differently. I see someone like Noah who basically is doing jumping jacks with his arms to ensure that the rope is crossing correctly. Like he's completely opening up his arms really wide and crossing them, so that's going to require a little bit of a longer rope. And then I see some people who are very tight and compact with it that just basically are putting their hands in their pockets, taking them in and out. So the size of the rope is going to differ there. So honestly, I think you have to figure out what your arm position feels like, what your shoulder mobility is like. So your internal rotation, external rotation, how much room you actually need to create space when the rope is passing overhead. But yeah, I mean, we're still kind of learning more about that and how to perfectly size it. Molly Metz gives a ton of good advice on this. So, I'm not going to pretend to be a jump rope expert at all. So I
wish you would.
Yeah, no. So I think, anything that she has with the movement, I would highly recommend in terms of sizing because she's just a great resource and she's a world champion with that style of movement. So
I think what you're saying is the angle of the dangle is proportionate to the heat of the meat.
Wow.
All right,
much.
so
I couldn't have said it better.
We got Paulo here. He says, hey guys, I'm following the intermediate path and sometimes I run out of time to finish everything for the day. Can I break into 2 sessions?
Totally.
Yeah.
That is a challenge when, for those that haven't seen our intermediate path, essentially it's our base path with extra or with options for skill development. So we have a got none skill development, meaning you do not have, let's say, ring muscle ups or toes to bar or handstand push-ups, whatever we're working on that day. And then the other option is our got some. So I have 2 ring muscle ups, but I want to improve those so that I can do 5 unbroken, then 10 unbroken. But when you pick those options and you're working on skill work, as anyone knows, like if you've done weightlifting before, it just takes a long time to go through this because we aren't doing it under fatigue. We want to rest as needed. We want to work on the technique, and then we want to do that over and over and over again. So if that's you and you need that work, I would jump into the intermediate path. But for those that are already in there, I think breaking it into 2 sessions makes a lot of sense. It allows you to jump into those skill sessions fresh, and it will give you more time where you're not like, this is me all the time. Mike too now. He's like, I got to get home and get to the kids, So you're rushing through and then the quality is a little bit too low.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's good advice.
Ortega, what's up? He says, is this the first time we go live? No, we just usually go live for our, just for the people in the program. Today we were just like, oh, fuck it. Let's just go live.
Yeah.
Live. It's not probably the greatest production, but maybe we'll actually make a live show one day.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
Inside the program, we do these often because we want to, the thing for us is community. That's what we're all about. So we want to do these, answer questions for our community. But Chris was like, hey, let's just post this live, and we did.
Yeah, I think it's a good time of the year, too, because everyone's kind of like, what now? How do I narrow down what it is I want to work on? How do I analyze that? I don't have the ability to go hire a coach, so we're doing our best to basically field all these questions for you.
Yeah. The next one is, any tips for dealing with injuries? More on the mental side, adjusting the program according on how I feel those days.
Yeah, I think that's good. There's 2 approaches to this. One is if you're in a competition season and timeline is, a factor in it, then it's more stressful. I've got to compete in 3 weeks. Like, how am I going to get around this shoulder injury? That changes how you approach it versus if you're in a period of like an off-season training phase where there's not a lot of pressure on the timeline, then I think you can pump the brakes a little bit and be a little less aggressive with how you're trying to basically rehab the injury. I think one of the big mistakes I see athletes make when getting injured is the overemphasis on the things they can't do. So I think what you need to do is if it's something that, let's say it's a shoulder injury and you need to get better at handstand push-ups, it's stressful because you're only focusing on, all right, well, handstand push-ups are my weakness. So I'm missing time getting better at this. And I think that's just wasted energy. So I think be creative with working around it. You can still develop your triceps. You can still do upper body strength work that doesn't necessarily involve the shoulder. And then find something else to continue to put the energy into that you can improve on so that you at least look back knowing, all right, I didn't just derail. I set up guide rails so that I can at least still move forward and make progress in something and not be discouraged by the things that are holding me back from the limiter I actually need to improve.
Yeah, I love that. I think you have to have a paradigm shift of not what I can't do, but what I can do. So take advantage of the time, maybe to Mike's point, I can't do lower body stuff right now, so I'm going to focus on the weaknesses that I have for my upper body. And then the second thing is you still need to address the things that you can't do by finding someone that you trust that can build a good rehab program for you, whether that's a coach, a PT, whatever it may be, just so that you are doing the right things to get back on track.
I will say it's crazy when you do watch the people who adopt the mentality of I'll do what I can do and how much freaking progress they make. So and then by the time, they end up healing or whatever, it's Wow.
Yeah. I think that, and I think, like Brandon was saying, being proactive with a rehab plan. So, you can say like, oh, I'm healing my shoulder right now, but like just doing nothing is not necessarily like the best approach. Like you have to be proactive and aggressive with your rehab. Like you have to have a plan and try to set some form of timeline on like, all right, well, if this doesn't get better by this period of time after doing this rehab, what's my next step? Am I going and getting imaging or what? So I think that actually puts you on a timeline so that you feel like you're in control of helping it improve.
Yeah. I'm not trying to sell his services, but he does a great job. He's on site. One of our coaches, Kyle Habdo, you can do a remote assessment. It's probably better if you came on site, but we understand people can't just travel. So if that's you and you have something going on, Kyle's done this for me. I think he's probably done it for Mike.
Yeah, he's helped my shoulder.
And a ton of our athletes, both in compete and our individual clients. So it
sounds to me like you're trying to sell.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth it. And the way that he thinks about it, I think, is where you need to be as far as performance goes.
Yeah. We do have a comment from Judy Reed. It says, you could teach Brian Friend a little about wall artwork, which I find hilarious. Have you ever seen his little painting?
I haven't.
No. The first time I ever saw him stream, I was like, what the hell is that? I would love to know. Screw that little shirt. He has a shirt that says be friendly. Screw that. We need that artwork on a shirt, whoever's making his shirts.
What is it behind
It's just like, I don't know.
I'll have to check
You'll
it
just
out.
have to give
this
it a Google.
This is Chris's bedroom.
You know what's funny? They say our artwork's better, but if you look behind, the Travis Noah body collab I have is falling off.
We're in Chris's dad's basement right now.
Oh, man. Yeah. So pretty soon we'll move out of this building, and then all this will be trash.
I know.
Yeah.
No, we can put it up in the new office.
I think we could take down all these pieces of paper and save them.
Yeah, I'm going to burn them. Okay, what else do we
Hold
have?
up. We have to take a minute to acknowledge this. I don't know if everyone watching knows, but literally every picture in here, can you turn the camera to show this, or is that going to mess things up? Every picture in here on these walls.
Super dizzy.
Chris hand-painted watercolor. I don't know.
Sorry,
There's probably
people.
2,000 photos in here.
I don't know. What's
Yeah,
what's funny about that is I don't remember who it would have been. Let me get this set back up. Someone with brute strength at one point sent me a message because they wanted to do a wall, and they were like, "Hey, what service did you use to do that?"
My hands.
And I was just like, I took all the photos, I printed them all, and then I hand painted them all.
There was a period of time where I'd come
And then I saw them like a month or two later, and they just done like one of those like a car wrap, but for a wall. And I was like, yeah, that's probably smart.
Yeah. They were like, I'm not taking the time.
I would come in here, it'd be like 7 a.m. on like Tuesday, and he's in here like watercoloring, listening to music.
Oh man. Well, it's been good for 3-4 years, something
Yeah,
like that. Next one. Did you have a question from the
I don't know, man. This is a new challenge. I did want, just because I want to say this name, someone's giving you a shout out, Mike. Congrats on the new edition, Mike, from Barry My Cockiner. I've always wanted to say that.
Wow. Man, these people here.
Do I say thank you?
Yeah, probably. And he's
All right.
using Lucas Parker's photo. I miss that guy.
Appreciate it.
Lucas is a good dude. Next question. What are some of your favorite books on athlete performance and mindset? Becky actually posted a picture in the water cooler of these. And can you pull those up? What did she say?
She said, "How bad do you want it?"
Great book.
That's by Matt Fitzgerald. That is a great book. That was one on my list. I think that's just like anytime I start with a client, that's like something I recommend. Like, you got to read this book. It's it's very impactful on shifting mindset. Steve Magnus, Do Hard Things, Grit by Angela Duckworth, Endure by Alex Hutchinson. I like that one too. And then What Drives Winning by Brett Ledbetter. Have you read Do Hard Things, Grit, or What Drives Winning?
I have only read Do Hard Things.
Yeah.
Not the other three.
Another one I'd recommend was Flow in Sports by Mihaly. We'll just say that twice. I don't know how to say the last name, but I thought that one was really good too, especially just coming from someone who lacks, I guess, the ability to endure very well. It's just a good book on basically reframing how I look at endurance work and finding the ability to get more comfortable in like painful settings.
Yeah.
How bad do you want it? It's just cool because it's more applicable stories of athletes and how they like change their mindset.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very performance-based. And he has some other good books. The 80-20 book is really
it's
good
a
too.
great running book.
So
yeah.
Something to look into. I would say that's one of my favorite. Elite Minds is a great book. I don't know who wrote that. I think Beecham is the guy's last name, but that's a really good one. And then one of my favorites, it's super short, anybody can read this in a day, is Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Okay.
Super, super good.
If someone in the chat drops hot fire, am I allowed to just chime in?
Absolutely.
Because there was a conversation that brought up Panda Express, and then someone said, you fill out the survey to get that free entree when you buy the bigger plate, and that's like pro level tip right there. You ever get the bigger plate at Panda Express?
Which one's I do the 2. So it's like 2.
You get the regular plate.
Is that regular?
Yeah. Weak sauce.
Dude, well, the thing is they just jacked their prices up to like $2.
Oh, yeah, but they jacked it up $2, but it was still cheap as hell.
That's true. Whatever. Compared to
everyone else and the amount of food you get, it's like a day's worth of food.
The most upset I've been is walking into the poke place over here, and it's like $2 more expensive now, too.
And they charge you for
and they were already like $20. And shout out to Panda Express because they were the OG CrossFit game title sponsor.
You told me that a couple weeks ago, and I had no clue.
Was it? Yeah, it was. It was 2010, I think.
Or in
the first year they were out of Aromas.
Oh, wow.
What happened? So they just stopped?
I don't know.
It's like 1 year. And
I don't know. I said we bring them back.
Yeah, that would be.
You can get a ton of chicken and rice Panda. Very cheap.
Well, now we have Chipotle. All right, next question. Let's see. Let me scroll down here. Layla's, this is a long paragraph, so I'll just kind of summarize. I think big picture for Layla was how do I learn how to go hard in shorter, high-powered workouts? She struggles with being able to push herself when she's by herself.
Yeah, good question. I think to me, the number one thing that I would see there is environment. And if you're struggling with the ability to basically push harder in more intense settings on shorter pieces, then I think you need to surround yourself in an environment where you're with people that push at a higher intensity so that you basically turn your brain off a little bit. So when you're on your own trying to do that, it's the same. What are you laughing about?
I pulled up the comments.
Sorry. It's the same example of someone who sucks at going long, and then they're trying to do long pieces by themselves all the time, and they're just basically, they have no base of what intensity is. You put yourself in an environment with people that are kind of moving a little faster. You're trying to chase them down. I think that that's more helpful. So number one is like, you got to really want to do that, and that's uncomfortable. And like, that means you're going to be in a situation where you're with people that are going fast, and it's going to push you out of your comfort zone. Because I see a lot of athletes that they're not good at doing really short, intense pieces because they don't enjoy it. Like, they don't like to hurt on that level. So I think remove the component of only being with your own thoughts and getting into an environment of people that can kind of take that away for you, I think helps a lot.
Yeah. I think the other thing is like physiology plays a role here. So Layla has worked so hard, and it's been awesome to see your progress, like being able to do all of the gymnastic skills, but also you came into the sport. We've had a conversation, Layla and I have had a consult before where you were pretty weak and you are super enduring. And just because of that, it's just really hard to tap into that like high power effort. And so you have to train it. So it's not just mentally preparing yourself, but also like physiologically preparing yourself by training those characteristics more often.
Yeah. I mean, as an example, like if you're writing a class workout and you're wanting it to be like a 21-15-9 chipper of like echo bike, bar facing burpee, and power snatch, you give that to, a 200-pound guy that can like rip the handles off the echo bike, he's going to be messed up.
Yeah.
You give that to a 130-pound lady, or even smaller than that, like they're just going to be kind of cruising on the echo bike. They're not strong enough and powerful enough to produce enough power in a short-term setting like that. So they get done and feel like I just couldn't go harder. So strength development helps you express that power in shorter settings like that. So I think a combination of those two.
Totally.
Real quick, Jamie Latimer wants to know, speaking of environment, are you doing another on-site group for age group semis?
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
It's just we're going to have to look at the timeline of when the next stage is.
The turnaround is so fast, so that's what we're struggling with right now. But Jamie, I'll have some stuff that's sent out tomorrow on some different things that we'll be doing. Cool. And congratulations for Jamie and all the other semifinal qualifiers through compete and individuals. We had a bunch of age group athletes, a bunch of individual athletes, so it's cool to see that.
And she said congratulations to you for having a baby.
Thanks,
both y'all
Jamie.
Just during the heat of the season, just popping
oh
out.
my gosh.
We were out here
my
watching.
Baby was born on the third week of the Open, the night it came out, and then
mine was right before age group quarterfinals. We were both here rocking our children as we watched age group quarterfinals.
We were like nudging our wives. Hey, can you wait a few weeks? It didn't work.
Jordan's like, stop being selfish. All right, next question. In this next cycle, if I'm prioritizing gaining lean mass, what exercises and rep schemes would you recommend that are most efficient for that? I'll also be increasing my protein intake. Any tips on easy food to prep, add in that are rich in protein? You want to take the strength side of that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants to know like what's the best muscle gain hypertrophy range, and like there's so much conflicting information out there. I think I always err on the side of higher rep ranges if you're looking for more pump style training. The lower the reps, it's more nervous system driven, it's more powerlifting based. So, but both can yield in getting bigger and stronger. Intensity drives like mass gain. So I think as long as whatever you're doing you're training with intensity and you're recovering between those efforts, you're on the right steps. You're taking the right steps to actually get bigger and get stronger. So I know that's kind of like and it depends kind of wide ranged answer. I don't like to say like, reps 5 to 30 are the perfect range because that's just so broad. So I think number one is making sure that you are eating enough food. And then when you're training with intensity, and then you're recovering as hard as you possibly can so that you can come back to the next session and hit the session with an equal amount of intensity.
Did they say if they were focusing only on strength?
He's prioritizing gaining lean mass.
Okay, so should they cut down like the CrossFit a little bit?
I think so. That goes into what I'm saying. If you are trying to drive as much intensity in your strength work as possible, that could mean removing the metcons that you're doing, the extra conditioning work, because that stuff is not supporting your recovery to show up to the next strength session with to hit it with full intensity. So that's for most people that are trying to get stronger. When I pull away their conditioning and remove all the extra volume that they're doing, they just start getting bigger and stronger at a much faster rate.
Yeah. And if you were to do all those things, you just have to eat a lot more. So if you're like, there are a lot of people in the program that already, actually our next question is, when are we going to get back into like harder CrossFit Metcons? And we'll talk about that. And there's a reason why we're not doing a ton of those right now. There's a specific plan in place. But
can you elaborate on that?
That's the next question.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that. But for those that are like itching to get back into it, I totally get it. And people are going to start adding stuff in because they get bored. But if you do that, you are it's like self-sabotage to some degree if your goal is to legitimately get stronger or to create lean mass. Now, Justin, the positive for you is if you're jumping in, let's say you follow Master Cycle that we're about to start next week after this deload, or if you follow RX, the muscular endurance work would probably still work well for gaining lean mass. Yep. It's just that you don't want to be doing a ton of like really high volume, high intensity metcons that then are burning a ton of calories and then you're not eating enough, because if you're at a deficit, there's no way to gain lean mass.
Yep. He also asked, increasing protein intake, any tips on food preps to add that are rich in protein?
Tracy. Come over here.
Oh, yeah.
We have one of our nutrition coaches here. So, Tracy, he asked, I'll be increasing my protein intake.
Egg whites with cheese powder.
Yeah. Any tips on increasing foods to add in that are rich in protein?
Here. Hop in.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're eating enough protein. So what that looks like is 1 gram per pound of your body weight at least. And especially if you're trying to be in like a surplus and put on that lean mass you're looking for, you might even want it to be more like, 1.3 or 1.5. And then keeping them high quality as you can, like that grass-fed options for your animal meats would be a good place to start and not have like too much gut distress. And then other things like yogurt, and you could even lean on like some other things that people don't think about are like protein pancakes and protein bagels. Yes. So good. But like even those like 10 grams can go a long ways, because if you're not used to having like, especially females, sometimes it's hard to get them to eat like 5 to 6 ounces of meat per meal. So I'm like, okay, let's try like 4, but then try to add in those snacks somewhere else.
Yeah. I think that's a great option. I have done that for clients just based off of like you or Becky telling us to do that, and myself too. Like the protein pancakes, I used to make those all when I was training a little bit more regularly than 45 minutes a day. I would do that as snacks beforehand just so that I was getting the protein in. Otherwise, I wouldn't throughout the day.
Yeah, and on those, one thing I do love is putting them in those like muffin tins, and then you can make them grab and go like 3 or 4 of those.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
That's all good stuff, but ribeye steaks, baby.
I agree with that.
It's like 50% fat.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, but you could do New York strip, which is a little bit less, and you could even go down. You want some cheaper meat, get some sirloin, a little less fat. Still pretty good.
You lost me at New York strip.
You don't like New York
ribeyes
strips?
all day, boy.
I actually think I like New York strip better than ribeye now.
All right,
I used to agree with you.
All right, I'm ending the stream.
Everyone, tell us what your favorite steak is. I think I would legitimately go with the New York
Everybody
strip.
tell him how wrong he is. There's no way.
Here's a better question: is how should it be prepared?
Hold up. Oh, are we still talking about protein?
Yeah, steaks.
Yeah.
All right. I want to see best favorite steak in the comments. Also, want to
medium rare, right?
I want to see like one quick little throw in there of your favorite like quick meal prep for protein. Mine, the easiest way that I've been doing it for years. I feel like it's gonna all be
just dicks. You can't trust the YouTube
What does that say about our audience? Oh my gosh. Crock pot, chicken breasts, Frank's buffalo sauce, and then some butter if you want to. You don't have to add butter, but like it's so easy, and I'll cook like 10 chicken breasts, put it on slow for 4 hours, and it shreds apart. And it's
super
easy.
tender.
Yep.
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorites.
And it's really cheap.
We got a lot of top sirloin, New York strip, filet mignon, skirt steak. Skirt steak is surprisingly.
Man, that's
I don't think you can go wrong with any of them.
Yeah.
You know, actually, and people are probably going to hate on this, but we went to Costco the other day and they had eye round that was on sale. So I got like 6 pounds for.
Is that the cow's butthole?
I don't know. I actually don't know where it comes from.
This live is taking a turn.
But it was like
I'm sorry.
It was like $2 a pound there. So it was like $12 for 6 pounds. It's crazy cheap. Usually it's probably like $5 a pound. And I put one in a sous vide and did it for 24 hours and then just seared the outside and it was amazing. So another option for cheap meat. All right. To get to that question, are we going to get into more CrossFit Metcons with this cycle eventually? If we are in RX Plus, I'm scared of losing my engine with all this strength stuff. And again, that is a perfectly valid question. We understand where that's coming from. You want to start?
Where is that coming from? And that's like
I mean, I think the last live that we did, we talked about that for like 30 minutes. So I hate to say like go watch that for 30 minutes, but I think I mean, I get it. Like it's hard to put other things on hold because you're afraid of emptying other buckets while you're trying to fill other ones. So I think,
and the CrossFit is the fun part.
It is, yeah,
100%.
For a lot of people, yeah.
Yep. But you know, if you're serious about progressing as an athlete, like I think that it's necessary to take time to do those things. Now, you need to make sure that that is what you need. You know, some people listen to that advice without even like analyzing their actual results in training or in competition. So if you go through and you look at your quarterfinal, you know, you review your quarterfinal results and your strength was clearly 1,000 places worse than all the other workouts, then like, okay, like, you know, that's likely the thing holding you back of getting better in the sport. And if that's a really large deficit that you need to close to get better long-term, then you have to take the time to acknowledge that and be okay with those other 4 things kind of hovering a little bit, maybe dropping just for a short term. If you're that good at them, they'll come back. You know, if anything, getting stronger and shoring up that weakness will make them better.
Yeah, I think that is where I always go with it is let's just say that you already are relatively strong and you need more endurance work, but you scored well this year. Even if that were the case, which is not for most people, by focusing on the slow lifts, the Olympic lifts, improving your overall strength because we've seen the bias in the sport, improving all of your skills under a non-fatigue state so that you're actually moving well, efficiently, meaning you're using less effort per rep than everyone else in the sport, then when you get back to the endurance work, the CrossFit, you're going to be better. So the first couple of weeks may suck because you're like, I'm breathing hard, my heart rate's high, but because you're moving more efficiently and you're stronger, all the loads that are prescribed in the sport will feel lighter. They'll be easier to move because you're more efficient. And then obviously when you get into that CrossFit season, then it's going to be better for you. So we're thinking about getting you better, again, going back to that analogy of building that foundation first so you don't have to fall back on it. We see every single year where people don't focus on the priority that they have because they feel like they're going to lose something else. And then they get into the open and the same bottleneck comes up. Like I can't do the muscle ups, or I sucked at the 275-pound clean and jerk again, and I lost my chance to go to semifinals because of that. We heard that this year. And it's just because people aren't prioritizing the things that they need to prioritize. So just keep that in mind. But to answer Gus's question, yes, you will see some CrossFit work, but the Metcons in this cycle are going to look different than the Metcons in the open, and that is intentional. So for example, in a couple of weeks, you're going to see a 20-minute AMRAP. That's a Metcon, right? But all of the movements must be done unbroken. So it'll be like 15 unbroken wall balls, 15 unbroken chest bar pull-ups, 15 unbroken handstand push-ups. That's going to inherently slow most
easy.
people. It's going to slow people down, so it's not going to feel like this super metabolic Metcon that we're used to.
Yeah.
But what it does do is allow you to build your muscular endurance in a dense setting that still is protective of overall volume.
Yeah, and I think just be patient with it. Like if you just finished quarterfinals as an individual, we're 2 weeks out. Like it's only been 2 weeks. So like you have an entire year still to get those things back up if by chance they happen to suffer a little bit while you work on a weakness. So just be patient and trust. I hate to say, like, trust the process.
Yeah. Hey, but listen, I want to go back to this, and I know you were asking why is that a big deal. Like I love doing Metcons too, and if it were up to me, like I would just do Metcons all the time because they're easy and fun. And I can just jump in. But I know that what
they're easy and fun.
No, I'm saying easy to get into, right? Like strength work takes a long time, and you got to focus, but like the easy things aren't what make you better at the sport. It's getting focused and making sure you're taking care of your priorities. So just keep that in mind.
Well, say it another way. If you did go and just do the fun stuff right now, starting now, and then you showed up in February next year,
I would still have the same weaknesses.
Look at Caden this year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's such a good
example. Dude.
What an awesome testimony to that, right? Like Caden Hogan's one of our teenage athletes. Max coaches him. He's 16, 17 now.
Yep.
He has world-class fitness in terms of Metcons. He crushes things, but so limited by strength the last several years. Wasn't really close to qualifying because he had such a large strength deficit.
He came in looking like a little shrimp.
Yeah.
And couldn't do nothing.
Yeah. Took a year.
Was a cardio bunny.
Took this
he was
year
that guy
to really back off on the Metcons and just focus on strength and develop it, and it paid dividends. He just won the age group division.
Yep.
You know, and
looking good
got
too.
his squat clean up to 306. Like, it's super impressive, and the fact that he was patient with that and trusted the process. And I remember there were times where he would come in and do a throwdown, and he was like out of shape, you know. But it was like, look, like you will get that back. You have to trust this process. And regardless, look ahead, big picture. Let's say 3 months from now, we're in this situation where competition comes up. You got a 1RM lift. Are you on track to improve at that point, not where you're at right now? And if that's the case, then cool. Then like you're on the right track.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome to witness.
Totally. And he like beat some really good 35 to 39-year-olds head to head in the workouts. I mean, it's impressive.
He's doing, he's beating individuals.
To kind of finish on that point, even if someone's limiter, like let's just say you are Mike and you're extremely strong, you have all the skills, you're good at everything in the sport, but you need more endurance, because that's what Mike would say right now. Like if you really wanted to get back into it, he still wouldn't be doing hard endurance work. He would start with a base building phase. It's a little bit easier. He's kind of building, again, his technique for running, for rowing, for biking, for all of those things. And then he would build that back into his normal routine.
Yep.
Let's take a minor detour to acknowledge the chat that's been happening. Are we down for air fryers?
Oh, yeah. Wings.
I use one all the time.
Man, I use it to reheat food and then to cook wings. This sounds crazy, but if I buy wings already cooked, I'll actually put them in the air fryer.
Makes them a little crispy.
Oh, man, they're
Crisp
so
them
good.
up. Man, Brussels sprouts in there is a go-to.
Very good.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll do potatoes in there a lot. We just like do the smaller potatoes and cut them into quarters, throw them in there.
Yeah, what else do I air fry?
I've been doing salmon lately.
Oh, I've never tried
How do you
salmon.
Oh,
say
yeah,
it?
that's pretty
Is
good.
Salmon?
Salmon, salmon.
Pink salmon.
However you want to say it.
Yeah. 400 degrees for 10, then flip and do 12 minutes because I like them crispy.
Yeah, I like air fryer, and I like Instapot for potatoes when I'm bulk prepping for the week. Yeah, you can cook like 6 pounds of potatoes in an Instapot in like 15 minutes.
Damn.
Really?
Yeah,
Is
and
it
it like mashed. Yeah.
Oh, you mash them?
No, they will they cook.
They're
they cook
soft
through.
enough.
Yeah.
Do you take the skin off?
It depends. You can peel them before, but
Do you like
don't
the
have
skin
to.
off?
I don't know if I do mashed potatoes with the skin, but I
sweet
love
potatoes.
skin for
Yeah.
like a baked potato.
Yeah,
The people
me
who
too.
don't eat the skin, I'm like, what are you?
Yeah.
Get
I like
out
it
of
when
my life.
if it's baked potato, I want the skin crispy.
Yeah.
And then I actually like the skin with mashed potatoes, but I want it like kind of minced.
Red potatoes, I'll leave the skin on. Mash it in.
Very good.
Yep.
What do you
garlic.
What do you guys put in your mashed potatoes? Like once you mash them up, are you putting like
Love,
sour cream,
Salt, pepper.
cream cheese, or any of those kind of like creamy
Yeah.
elements?
salt.
Yeah. Well,
Salt for sure.
I'm hardcore paleo, so no. I'll put
So I just have
butter
sweet
in it.
potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah. I put sweet potatoes in my sweet potatoes.
All right.
You didn't answer my question. All
I
right.
kind of did.
What do you put in yours?
Usually it's like salted butter, extra salt. If it's just me and not
You
Jordan,
put salt and salted butter?
I'll do a little bit of
If it's
extra.
just me, if I got the
What
house
if
to
it's just
myself,
me? It's like, no kids, no
I got the house to myself with my potatoes.
You worry about your cholesterol, dog.
I'll do extra salt. I'll pour the whole thing in, and then a little bit of cream cheese or something. I like that creamy texture.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yum.
How do we intelligently layer weakness work on top of the base programming? The nice thing for those that are in the program is you have a ton of options to do this. So we have our intermediate path, which I already talked about, that has our got none and got some progressions. That is weakness training. So every single day of the week, there's an option in there. One day maybe is bar muscle ups, the next day is handstand push-ups, the next day handstand walk, the next day is toes to bar. All of the common skills that people are limited by, we are working on throughout the year. This first phase is all focused again on building the requisite strength to do those well. The next phase will be adding in some minor respiratory fatigue. So breathing a little bit, maybe doing a run into toe to bar, a run into muscle ups. The third phase is sport specific. So we're building, again, one layer on top of the next on top of the next. It's kind of like that nacho dip. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do it.
Gosh, that was awesome.
For those that just turn it on, they have no clue. So that is option number one, especially for those that they don't have those movements or they only have a few. The other option for those that have those movements and maybe are a little bit better at the sport is our extra credit work that we have in our RX, and RX Plus paths.
Oh, yeah. Someone actually in the chat earlier was saying that they were watching this while doing the Flextra credit.
Oh,
I like that.
Word?
Yeah.
It's that easy?
Wow. I know.
Maybe they're
hard
just
for me.
listening. Headphones.
Actually, if it's bodybuilding style stuff, it should feel like that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of those split squat variations have been tough.
Yeah, but man, they feel so good.
They do.
They're so good for your knees and hips.
I agree. Those extra credit options vary throughout the year.
Yep.
But we cover, if you looked at our entire year template, which, by the way, for everyone that is following our program or have been interested, we're going to have a full overview of the entire year, and we're going to just do one every single year starting this in 2024.
Actually, someone asked earlier, I think it was Ortega, said, how many cycles in a year?
Yeah, so typically we'll have
8?
6.
Oh, 6, yeah.
Typically we'll have 6, but sometimes we'll have a microcycle based on if CrossFit announces something. So that the one thing that people always ask us is like, can we get the whole cycle ahead of time? And the reason we don't do that, other than like a strength bias program, is because we are adjusting it on the fly. So like as things come out, as a new equipment list comes out, as CrossFit announces new dates, as we get feedback from our program, we have coaches that are in there every day analyzing the feedback that we have, and then we adjust the program moving forward. So that's why we do it, because we want to deliver the best possible program. And another example of that is tomorrow, I mentioned this already, but Masters will be getting an email, and in that email we'll have a survey. So they'll be able to break down their open performance, their quarterfinals performance, what they thought they did well, they thought they did poorly, and give us some feedback as coaches on what we can do better for them, and then we adjust the program based on that. So that's why we don't just like deliver full cycles ahead of time. We want people to get better. Yeah,
and I think if you're like wanting to get into the program and go back and backtrack, like when you buy the program, you go in, you can go back in the calendar and look at old stuff. So that's definitely available. I think too, with the weakness training and how we layer things in, we don't just always slap out all these templates and give out all these progressions, because historically what we've seen is people get trashed doing that.
They pick 7 of them.
They pick 7 of them. They're going to work on them all at once while trying to follow the main program and stay involved in the community. And like, we just realized this isn't the best way to coach these things. So we layer them in ourselves to make sure that you're progressing at like a healthy rate. And we've just seen better success with people maintaining like good movement and like not getting trashed too frequently in the season. So that's why we do that. And I mean, we are going to continue to have things more available in terms of like specifics, but I think we like to unite the program and have people following along the program as a path as we're building, so that we're all kind of progressing together.
Yeah.
I feel like we give out enough information too, as well as, how like this current cycle, we've made so many videos on this was your weakness in the quarterfinal or qualifier season. These are the programs we're offering. These are the things you need to do. So like, there's a ton of information that you should be able to know, looking at the program, exactly what to follow.
Yeah, totally. So some of those extra credit options this cycle, we're doing rope climbs, we're doing bar muscle up variations, a couple strict handstand push up, and then all the flextra credit, which is, do you want to speak to those real quick? They're in the strength bias path, but also you can get those in RX.
Yeah. Monday, it's lower body emphasis. So you're doing more emphasis on quad and hamstring development. Sometimes some calves thrown in there. We've got an upper body one on Friday that's shoulder tricep development. So it's basically complementing any major or large muscle groups that we're not hitting through some of the like traditional conditioning or muscle endurance work that we're doing through the week. So if you look at the week as a whole, every body part's getting hit in some form of like a bodybuilding pump style format this off season.
Even the tibs?
Even the tibs. Yeah, we got some anterior tib work in there.
I'll challenge anyone to a tib off.
Or a hamstring curl, right?
Are you talking back to wall
or Nordic curl or tib off? I'll
you talking people back to wall or heels elevated seated?
For the tibs?
Yeah.
What's that little thing we have out there? Seated on that?
Yeah, the tib raise.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, Chris,
the back to wall, like crush my shins in a good way.
Chris can do a full weighted Nordic curl by himself, no assistance.
Well, I could do 10 unbroken cold.
10 unbroken cold, but then with a 20-pound vest.
And then one time I did 20-pound vest. I did 3 reps, but that was after I did a 20-second eccentric.
That's impressive.
So if anyone can do that, maybe do a video real quick.
I think I could go out there and try one max effort and remove the hamstrings off my legs.
I agree.
Also, here's a challenge I did if anyone wants to do it. On the air runner, a 6:30 mile, straight into... Right after you finish your mile, you have 90 seconds to get max Nordic curls.
Ugh, that'd
8.
be hard.
I got
hamstrings
8.
would be smoked.
I could probably do more than that.
Were your hamstrings just toast after running on the air runner?
I was more tired than I thought I was going to be.
Anytime I sprint on the air runner, it's hamstrings.
Yeah,
like just immediate.
I agree.
Local pump to the hamstrings.
The last thing on that weakness question, just so everyone knows, for our next cycle that starts May 8th, our extra credit options will be wall-facing strict handstand push-ups because those came out this year. So we're going to work on positions and then some endurance in those. We're going to work on trunk compression. So it'll be a mixture of V-ups. Just in case they come out, we want everyone to know how to compress correctly because we saw a lot of no reps where people would like raise their knees and then their trunk and then kick with their legs. That's a no rep.
There's such a large carryover for that movement anyway, like going into toe to bar and other gymnastics movements. So
yeah, so it'll be a mixture of V-ups and GHD sit-ups. Again, those will probably come out. They've come out all over the last 4 years. Then we'll have an endurance session, but this is going to be like choose your own journey. So it'll be a 30-minute max distance, either on the ski, the C2 bike, or the row erg. So for those that need work on any of those, we'll build it in there for you, and you'll follow those progressions. And then the last one will be bar muscle ups. But I say that because so you have 4 extra credit options every single cycle that you can pick from, and then you still have your got none and got some options. There are so many different weakness templates that you can build your training around, but we want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So I'll always ask a coach.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about? There's a couple of questions in here about like things like, can you do got none even if you literally can't do pull up or toes to bar? We have something that we're bringing out the next cycle that we're pretty excited.
Launch it here.
It's basically a beginner program. So this is a 12-week program that we're bringing out. It's not going to be a continuous program, meaning it's not following along necessarily with what the program is doing. It's more of like if you're coming in and you have like really base level stuff that you're trying to develop to get to the level of doing the intermediate path, we highly recommend this. So upper body strict pulling and pressing development, learning the Olympic lifts with basic technique, learning gymnastics positions.
Is this like someone, if they came into a affiliate and they had never done CrossFit before, that's kind of the market?
It's modeled off of what we do with our on-ramp systems for affiliates. So think of it as like, your own at-home on-ramp system to basically on-ramp to doing the intermediate path. So we realize that there's a lot of people that want to get into the sport and want to compete and do the open eventually that train alone at home. And if they signed up and went into the intermediate path, there's a lot of movements you have to already know. Like I would say the intermediate path is the equivalent of like an average class member. They've got a couple skills they can't do, but they've got good strength base and they already kind of understand some of the movements, but that leaves a big gap for a lot of other people that want to come in and learn these movements. So we developed a program that we're launching soon that's going to basically on-ramp you into the intermediate path. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah. Nice. We just actually did our one of our last reviews of it. Now we're building out all the content for it, and like I'm so pumped. Yeah. This is for the person that wants to be competitive but doesn't have those skills. I think, was it Kelsey that asked that question? Whoever it was. Yeah. So whoever it was, like we have so many people that come in that maybe can't do pull-ups or can't do toes to bar. This will get all those. We're going to get you pull-ups. We're going to get you wall walks. We're going to get you toes to bar, teach you how to kip correctly.
You get a skill.
And then also work on your strength. So the goals by the time you finish the program would be a 1.25 times body weight deadlift, a 1-time back squat body weight, and then at least half of your body weight in strict press. And then from there, obviously, we want those to go up. But that will allow you to graduate from the beginner program into intermediate.
Trish is funny. Who sells best athletic fit clothing? I went to try on clothes yesterday and everything made me look like a wallet.
I want to know who is this?
I don't know. It's MVP of the chat today.
Yeah, chat's been fun.
Man, this is great.
If anybody has any more questions or just any more funny comments, throw them in now because y'all have any more left?
No, I think that's all the questions in the water cooler.
We'll hang out for a couple minutes, see what happens.
Yep. Brandon, how much golf have you played since you're
Does anyone in the chat play golf? I want to know if it's just you nerds.
So disappointing. I actually was driving here this morning. I was like, I wonder if I can go to the range real quick. It was like 9:20.
How do I ask my wife that?
I'm terrified.
Hey, we got a couple of extra calls.
Jordan, are you watching this right now? She said she was going to watch. So supportive.
Oh, we got one golf lover.
He loves golf. Do you love it or do you play it?
What's your handicap?
Hiller
I've seen Hiller post some.
We should have y'all verse each other. Come on,
let's go.
That's
Hiller,
the video.
Come down to Atlanta. We can come play at our local.
And hopefully he's bad, so you could be like,
I'm bad
get the bats
too,
out on him.
Yeah, we can. We'd have a nice foursome there.
Tomorrow or today, actually, the results are going to be released for the arms only Echo Bike Challenge.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I actually am excited.
Do you want to keep the leaderboard closed like this? Do you like that?
Wait, did we post the video for that?
Yeah,
we
did.
It's live.
Yeah,
it's live.
YouTube can go watch it now.
Well, it's not public.
Oh,
so we should make
it public.
Yeah,
all right, tell them what it is. What's the challenge?
So we have 6 tests that are happening, 1 test per week over the next 6 weeks in the current cycle that we're in. What? Trish. Are you laughing at Trish?
What are we? Just say what we're laughing at.
We're calling them floater challenges. It's basically a quick challenge in the program that you can do that's thrown in at any point in the week. And at the end of the 6 weeks, we're basically going to crown a winner of these just random skills. I wouldn't say random. We chose them based on some things we are developing with the current training that we're doing, but it's more so fun just to kind of throw down and do a quick little test. And as an example, week 1, we're about to release week 2 tomorrow. Week 1 is a 60-second max cal arms only echo bike. So, yeah, it's nasty.
So the group already, the people in the program already saw that.
Yeah,
video,
they already saw that.
But I should go make that live for
you. Should.
Yeah, let's make it live, and maybe some people can post.
Who's the demos?
It's me, Mike, and Max.
Yeah.
We all sucked
Mr.
at
Hodge?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how fast my arms blew up.
I know.
The first 20 seconds,
I knew that was
do
going to
this.
happen.
Yeah, I just thought I was going to be more enduring, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, the next week will come out tomorrow, so those that are in the program, you'll get that. And then maybe later in the week you can post it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What you're saying. Someone said Savanas or disc golfers. Yeah, so remaining ones, we've actually been keeping the leaderboard hidden. I like it because I don't want people to go in and just like repeat it multiple times in the week. We want it to be just do it once and get it done, and that's it. So
we have a couple demos that are super impressive coming up.
The tests are fun. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, and some people that crush.
Yeah, for those in the program, be on the lookout. The next one, Jonathan asked, are these floater workouts posted on Instagram eventually? Yeah, we'll post them.
How long are those videos?
60 seconds.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, every single one of the workouts
we'll
is
make
60
them a
seconds or
reel.
less. And they're not all sprint, too.
You know, reels, right?
They're skill-based, and yeah.
God, I'm so over it. Social media.
We built it so that everyone in the program could give it a shot. All right. Is that it? What else?
Something else here, but another question.
Jamie said definitely keep it hidden. Yeah.
Jamie, did you do the arms only? Probably in between quarterfinal workouts. It was too easy for you.
Yeah.
Jamie, your scores were very impressive. Are these floater workouts posted on IG? Did you answer that one already? Yeah, we're going to do that. Another question, can I follow the intermediate path and still do classes at my affiliate? I love the community environment.
What was it? Sorry, what was that? I was reading.
Can I follow the intermediate path and still do classes at my affiliate?
Yeah, I actually did a consult with someone yesterday who was asking about ways to follow intermediate, what they should pull from it if they're still following the affiliate programming. So they have like an extra hour before the classes that they wanted to do. And I basically just walked through and was like, figure out the skills that you want to do from intermediate and do that beforehand, or replace it as some of the extra credit days that affiliate has. Because affiliate programming has, it's basically the hour class is written to do your strength and your conditioning piece. Sometimes how much strength or conditioning just varies, like 50-50 or 70-30 on time spent in an hour. And then there's extra credit every day that's intended to be done, obviously, outside of the class. So you can always replace that with, some of the skills that we're doing in intermediate.
Can I add one more thing?
That you can. I know it's going to be something silly.
Before everyone checks out, before you leave, if you have any Pokemon cards, you can send them to Training Think Tank HQ at 11445 North Fulton Industrial Boulevard, Alpharetta, Georgia. You can find the address on our website. Just go ahead and send them and label it to CTP, and I'll gladly take those off your hands.
Trish is just dropping bombs.
I know. Hey, what's funny is I actually crush Altoids too.
You do. He has a can a week.
Yeah. No,
You go through them. Our last staff meeting, you were in there just chewing them.
Yeah, I just eat them.
Yeah. I do the same thing with gum.
That's why I don't bite them. I can't control myself.
All right, do y'all swallow your gum?
No, absolutely not.
Did y'all know people growing up who did?
I did.
Yeah,
what? I did. When I was a kid, I did.
No,
I had
my mom used to get so mad at me.
A doctor freaked me out one time because he was like pushing on my stomach. And he's like, I can feel the gum in there.
It just terrified you. It's crazy that those are the things you remember too.
Yeah,
right? Because if you look back in your childhood, you probably don't remember most things, right?
I think he was right.
All right. Anything else, Chris?
Nope, just send those Pokemon cards.
They do. Altoids make me sneeze too.
Wow, Jordan's calling me out for my gum usage. I do. I'll go through a 40-pack of gum in a day.
Is Jordan Trish?
No. Look,
no, Jordan's Jordan.
Yeah, come on, man.
I don't see
all the way down.
All right. One final thing. Everybody, before we leave, minus the Pokemon cards, put in your favorite Limp Bizkit song in the chat, and we'll roll out.
Is that a song?
Well, kind of. Yeah. Close.
Yeah.
Oh, the roll and roll and roll. And I know that song.
And we'll
Speaking of sour cream.
Yeah.
That was it. Call back.
You do it.
I hope whoever posted that comment caught that. That was comedic genius right there.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging.
All right.
We got a nookie.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. What you know about? Is that song in drop D?
Yeah. All new metal's in drop D.
Is
well,
it?
until they started doing the 7 strings, and then everything's in drop C with the 7th string, and then all right, that's all the time we have.
Okay. I think yours is like delayed. Yeah.